Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So spring is in the air. Literally, it's full of pollen. I have been sneezing a lot these last couple of weeks. With what's been going on, my allergy shot that I normally get had to be canceled, so I'm feeling it. Feeling the spring a little hard in these parts. So I was watching Kelly Gooch this morning, and if you don't know Kelly, I highly recommend her. I really like her channel a lot. She's very relatable, very down to earth and laid back. She does a lot of videos on project panning and shopping your stash. She uses all cruelty-free products. And from when I met her in person during Pixi Live this past fall in New York City, she was absolutely a total peach. She was super nice, very sweet person. So I will have her channel linked for you guys in the description box to check out if you haven't watched her content before. But she had just posted a video talking about 5 eyeshadow palettes for spring that she wanted to recommend that you guys either bust back out of your collection or to give you some inspiration for the season, and I thought that was a really fun topic. So I felt inspired to go through my own makeup collection and pull out 5 eyeshadow palettes of my own that I'm really excited to use this spring. I'm pretty sure that we don't have any overlap. There kind of sort of is one palette that she mentioned, but she didn't really highlight it in the same way as I am going to in this video, so I don't think it like completely counts. But yeah, I am all about springtime and flowers and sunshine, as you can clearly see from my very girly backdrop and the constant like floral garlands that I have that change with the seasons. I'm excited for spring. I like the spring color palettes, and I'm just ready to channel those vibes. So if you're ready to hear about the 5 eyeshadow palettes that I'm most excited to use this spring, we're about to get into it. So first is the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes right now. This is to me like the quintessential springtime palette. I absolutely love this. It may be my favorite Nabla eyeshadow palette of all. It's definitely the one I've used the most, and it's the one I've had in my collection longest, and that is the Soul Blooming palette. So first of all, I mean, the exterior packaging just screams springtime because it's pastel and it's got a bunch of beautiful flowers on it, and it's kind of hard to tell on camera, but this almost has a little bit of a texture to it. The flowers are shiny, kind of like on a matte background, which just gives it like a little extra special touch. And then these are the shades that are inside, and I absolutely love the color story of this. It feels very floral, it feels very springtime. I feel like they nailed the theme with this. So you have a couple of neutral shades to give you a little bit more options as far as blending goes, but then you have a bunch of really beautiful peach, rose, and pink tones, and then you have some purples and blues over here, and I just feel like the combination of these shades together is just chef's kiss. So gorgeous. So for the look that I'm wearing right now, I went in with this shade Bolero first in the crease because I really feel like the way that the pink kind of pops against the blue looks really pretty. And then I used the shade Flowery on my lower lash line. This is such a good periwinkle blue. It's a really unique shade. And with it being a matte, like it actually does show up really nicely. It's not patchy, it's very soft and creamy. It's just so nice. And then I actually, well, it's not really cheating, but I wanted to get some use out of the ColourPop, the crab pigment that I picked up last year. This is a collaboration they did with Kathleen Lights for like her Zodiac collection. I'm a Cancer, so naturally I wanted the crab pigment. So I put this all over my lid and kind of secured it with the glitter primer from NYX, and then I went in with Anemone in the outer corner of the eye, and then used Garden Gate to kind of like blend those 2 shades together. I used a little bit of Climbing Rose to kind of blend the metallics into the matte pink, and then I also put a little bit of Flowery kind of more towards the inner corner just to kind of, again, blend the blue into the pink, almost add like a little bit of a purpley effect. I have the shade Philosophy in the inner corner, and then I finished it off with some lashes and a little bit of a navy blue eyeliner, and I think the look came out So cool. I really, really dig it. I think it's very glam and fun and springy. But you obviously could do a lot with this palette that's not like this intense and dramatic. These colors could be very, very soft, really, really easy to wear for like a very office appropriate look. But you know what? While we're all stuck home right now, why not go all out with your makeup, wear the crazy cool colorful things that you might not normally get to wear every day. Sadly, the only bad thing about this palette is that they don't carry it at Ulta yet. I don't know why they haven't made this product available. You can obviously order it from the Nabla website, and I believe, is it Beauty Bay? I think there is another retailer that does carry Nabla that does ship to the United States, but I personally bought mine directly from the Nabla website, I think in the very end of 2018. Also, hopefully this will be a good reminder to you guys if you bought any of these ColourPop pigments to go bust them out of your collection and use them again. I also have the shade The Scales, which is the Libra inspired shade, and this is another one that's absolutely gorgeous for springtime. So let this be a good reminder to you guys to go like rifle through your drawers and look at your pigments and your singles and see what you have, because you may have some really beautiful springy shades you kind of forgot about. Another palette that I've been really enjoying lately, and I feel like while it maybe doesn't scream spring in the same way that this guy does, I do still feel like it's a beautiful palette to wear at this time of year, is the Pixi and Heart Defensor Double Tap palette. This is part of the Pixi Pretties collection that launched for 2020. So this is a little 8-pan eyeshadow palette. You've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 mattes in here and 4 sort of shimmery metallic shades. And even though this is a warm-toned neutral palette, I think the reason this feels much more spring to me than fall is that the tones lean a little more peach than they do rust, and I think you have these kind of more brighter pinky tones than plummy purple. So just overall, I feel like it's a little bit cheerier, it's a little bit brighter, and it's a little more reminiscent of like the warm weather to me. And I've said this numerous times over, I think the Pixi eyeshadow formula is really underrated. Not a lot of people talk about their shadows a lot, and I think they're absolutely gorgeous and very, very approachable and easy to work with. They're not like insanely pigmented to the point where they're difficult to work with, but they show up beautifully on the eyes and they blend out really nicely. Like, look at those colors. I think that they're absolutely stunning. I've gotten so many compliments whenever I've worn this, and I just feel like it's very easy to put together a look because you kind of can't go wrong with any pairings of these shades. They're all kind of in a nice harmonious color family where it's not like a monochromatic palette, so it's not going to get boring and you can make some different looks, but everything is like muted enough to not make you go like, how the heck am I going to use this? So when I was going into the office every day, this was a palette I reached for a lot just because I felt like it was the perfect thing to create a work look with that still was different because, you know, I feel like the shades in here, like you have this really cool kind of orangey gold duochrome and like the really fun kind of hot pink. Like you can make a fun look with this while still feeling like a professional, which is cool. Another spring palette that I absolutely love and definitely am going to start using again is one I think a lot of you guys probably have in your collection and maybe haven't reached for in a while, and that is the ColourPop Sweet Talk palette. So this was ColourPop's spring 2019 launch, and I think a lot of people picked this up because it's a really, really stunning palette. I think this is one of the best palettes that ColourPop launched last year. First of all, the packaging is absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous and edgy at the same time. And then inside you have 12 really, really beautiful warm-toned neutral shades in here. Now I will say that this Pixi palette I just showed you guys, these color stories are very, very similar. So if you like this color story, you definitely don't need both of these palettes. I think if you're trying to choose between the two of them, do keep in mind that the ColourPop does contain a couple of pressed glitters in here. So if you don't like glitter, then you may actually enjoy the Pixi palette more. The pans in here are also substantially larger. So if you are someone that tends to have fewer palettes and use them to death, this may be like more bang for your buck, but I do absolutely love the ColourPop eyeshadow formula, and I think these shadows are beautiful. And if you like the extra textures that are in here, this one is a little bit more affordable, I think, or around the same price, and definitely will not disappoint performance-wise. I think this was also the first ColourPop palette to introduce a Super Shock into the mix. This one has a shade called Side to Side, which is like the most beautiful, just sort of like ethereal, sparkly shade. This all over the lid with, like, let's say one of these like pinky coral shades in the crease. Looks so pretty together. And also this shade Melody, which is kind of like a duochromatic shade similar to the one in the Pixi palette. Also super stunning all over the lid. So this is, again, a palette that just makes me feel very pretty. I really like wearing it at this time of the year, and if you have this, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do, maybe now is the time to use it again. Now, the palette that I have that I mentioned is kind of a loose overlap to Kelly's list, is the ColourPop Mint to Be palette. Now, in Kelly's video, she talked about the Lilac You A Lot palette, but then kind of mentioned that, like, all of the other pastel palettes are good for spring. This personally is my pick. Now, I don't have a lot of the ColourPop monochromatic palettes, so I guess I'm a little bit biased, but I do really feel like mint is such a gorgeous springtime color, and this definitely is a unique palette to my collection. Like, I don't have a lot of mint greens elsewhere. As you can see, I've clearly got an abundance of warm toned neutrals, but I picked this up to use as an accent palette because I think mint can look really beautiful paired against pretty much all of these other spring tones that I've shown you guys. The quality of the shadows in here, unsurprisingly, is excellent. These have a nice pigmentation to them. They show up really beautifully on the eyes, and they're just really fun colors to play with, again, to accent a look. I'm not one that really enjoys using this palette all by itself. Like, if you wanted to rock an all mint look, go for it. I think that can look really cool. But I think for a lot of people, if you were to buy this palette just for the purpose of creating mint looks, I think you would get sick of it really quickly. Like, you would do it a couple of times and be like, that was fun, and then probably be over it. Whereas I think if you think of this palette as an accompaniment, as an accent palette to use with other things, you won't get bored of it quite as quickly. Like, I'm just thinking, looking alongside like the Soul Blooming, like if you were to add a little hint of mint into this existing color story, how beautiful would that be? Maybe I should like do that for a future look. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing. And then finally, the last palette on my list is the Focallure Cosmetics Paris palette. This is something that I feel like is very much flown under the radar. Not a lot of people talk about Focallure, but their eyeshadow formula is actually pretty decent. I think this palette retails for maybe around $16, and you get quite a few different shades in here. The one thing I will say about the Focallure Cosmetics eyeshadow formula is that their metallic shades do not perform well on a bare lid. You definitely need to apply some kind of like wet or tacky base underneath them for them to stick to. Otherwise, I feel like they look kind of lackluster on the eyes. But if you use, let's say, like the NYX glitter primer underneath them, they are insane and they wear so well. So this palette, I feel like, kind of could go spring or fall in certain ways because of the color story that's in here. However, I think the tones are a little bit brighter, which to me feels a little bit more spring than fall. So you have this really gorgeous kind of limey green shade. You have this absolutely gorgeous duochrome rose. We have a really pretty matte yellow shade, as well as kind of like this plummy purple, which again, some of these tones can be fall. I feel like they can kind of go either way. I think part of it is that we see a lot of these colors in nature. So for me, they feel reminiscent of springtime and everything that's blooming and growing. So the more that I looked at this and thought about it, I felt like, you know what? Yeah, this really could create some beautiful spring feeling looks. And to be honest, I have not played with this palette nearly enough, so maybe this will be like a good excuse for me to reach for this in the next week or so and see like what kind of looks I can come up with. All right, you guys, so I think that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed seeing my eyeshadow palette picks, and a big thank you to Kelly again for inspiring me to create this video. I will link her video again in the description box for you guys to check out. And be sure to leave a comment and let us all know what your spring eyeshadow palette picks are. Are we on the same page? Do you have the same picks as Kelly, or are they like totally different? If you're new here to my channel, I hope you will consider clicking that subscribe button before you go, so that way yours truly will show up in your subscription feed and we can hang out again together in the future. And yeah, I hope you guys are all staying safe. I hope you're all staying well and you all are in my thoughts. And on that note, I'm gonna let you guys go, but I will see you in another video. Bye guys.